Joining us today on Go Acadiana is Secretary of State Tom Schedler. And from what I understand, the presidential primary is coming up in March, and you have to either change your registration by a certain date or you can change it. But if you're a Democrat or a Republican, you can vote. If you're an independent or libertarian, you can't. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. The first off, the presidential preference election is March the 5th. And if you want to participate in that, we have that 30-day window forward. Is the final day is next week, February 3rd. So I tell people the election day is very important, but more importantly, I guess, is make sure you register to vote to participate. So that's February 3rd for those individuals not registered to vote at this time or who would like to change their party affiliation prior to that date. And the reason change of party affiliation may or may not be important to folks is that we revert briefly on this election only to a closed primary. That means only Democrats can vote on the Democratic side and only Republicans can vote on the Republican side. We toyed with that several years ago, and then we reverted back to the open primary. So for those who want to vote on the Democratic side for the three major candidates that purportedly will qualify in Louisiana, you would have to be a Democrat. So, and I tell people that if you're not a Democrat at this time, and maybe you're an independent voter or another Green Party, Libertarian, and the like, you'd have to change beforehand. And that may not be a case in prior elections, but if you think about it, we have a unique situation with Senator Sanders out of Vermont, who's running for president. He's actually not a Democrat, so he's an independent. So you may have some folks that want to cast a vote for him, but unless you're a Democrat, you're not going to be able to do so. So that's the presidential preference primary, and then I'm going to confuse the voters even more.
That's okay.
I didn't make these rules, believe me. I'm one of these that tend to believe that the parties should do this inside a caucus amongst themselves because it costs Louisiana a heck of a lot of money to put this election on.
Right.
But we also simultaneously, in 24 of the 64 parishes, have elections for mayor, city councils, or tax propositions. And although Lafayette, which I know your station's based, does not have any of that, in your surrounding parishes of St. Martin, Acadia, and St. Landry, you do. So possibly in your listening audience, they will additionally have elections on other things. Anybody can vote in that.
Right.
So you can see the confusion.
Sure.
The commissioners will literally have to allow you to go presidential preference primary if you're a Democrat or Republican, and they'll put the ballot up for that specific category. And then after you finish with that or before, you will have the option for any voter to be able to vote on those issues of your local government and tax propositions.
All right. Secretary of State Tom Schedler is our guest today. We're talking about the presidential primary and how you're registered. Now, from what I understand, between now and February 3rd, you can change your registration to the other party if you'd like to vote for somebody in the other party, or if, you're an independent, libertarian, Green Party or whatever, you can change to either party. And after the election, you could change back to the party.
That is correct.
Wow, my God.
I know. It's like I said, I don't make the rules. I just put the election on. But
understand.
It is confusing, especially when you get to this side of the equation in these closed primaries, because people in Louisiana are so used to just going to the polls, voting, and it makes no difference how you register. You can vote and everything. This is the exception.
Right. Now, the presidential primary being held on March 5th, with only 24 parishes having other elections, will that make the turnout be incredibly light across the state?
Ken, it usually is, and I don't, I certainly don't wish for that. But when you look at things like gubernatorial elections that we just came out of, or the huge senatorial election we had the prior year, and look at some of those voter participation turnouts, I mean, I just do not see a huge turnout for this. I certainly have not made a prediction yet, but I don't think it'll be huge. It will be a little bit increased in those parishes that have other elections going on. I mean, all politics is local. You've heard that saying before.
Sure.
So maybe a hotly contested mayor's race or city council or a hot tax proposition renewal or new tax. You'll have maybe people in a local area more motivated. And then as a sidebar, I didn't realize I was voting presidential preference.
Yeah.
But it's going to be primarily those, people that are chronic voters and are very active in their party, so to speak.
Yeah.
We certainly encourage others to participate, and it's open to everybody. But I think from a practical standpoint, that's what you're going to see.
Right. So you can go register at your registrar of voters office in
Go
your
to the
parish.
register of voter. You can go to go vote. You can go online and vote. Louisiana was one of the first states in the country to offer online registration. So you can do that very simply from your computer and handle that in the comfort of your homes. But go to register a voter, or if you're at school, you can go to the school counselor at universities, social service offices. There's various places you can actually register. Motor vehicles, if you're doing a transaction with motor vehicles. But obviously, register a voter is the primary, or online.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for clearing up the confusion, or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I may have confused you more. I tell you, somebody challenged me the other day on some of the details behind, because in addition, and I wanted to mention this. In addition to that, you'll also be voting on like the state central committee for the Democratic Party and also the Republican Party, and then.
Goodness.
Behind that, the two parties have their caucuses to decide who goes to the both national conventions, and gets even more complicated because depending on how the vote comes, it's on a proportional basis of how they vote when they go to the respective conventions sometime in the latter part of the year. So it is confusing, and I don't profess to be able to articulate it as clear as maybe I should be, but hopefully I'll get better over time.